Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Today I want to talk about water. Water is a really destructive force. I do a lot of home improvement type stuff. I like to work around the house. If it has anything to do with plumbing, I will call a plumber. If it has anything to do with water, I will call a plumber. If it's something with the roof, I will call a specialist. I don't want to deal with, I just don't feel qualified to deal with water and the effects of water. Yes, this is the Networking RX podcast. I'm going to pull this all back into relationships and networking here. But water is a destructive force, and there are really, there's lots of different forces behind water. I want to talk about two in general. One is tsunamis. And what a tsunami is a series of waves in a body of water caused by displacement of the water. And there are certainly lots of causes for it, but what you might have happen is somewhere on the bottom of the ocean floor, you might have a shift in the tectonic plates. Don't ask me how or why, but there's a shift in the tectonic plates, and what that does is it creates a place where water will fill in, and that water's got to come from somewhere, and when the water fills that in, and then it kind of shoots back out, if you will, that creates this tsunami of a wave. And we've seen this a couple times in recent memory. Tsunamis happen not every day, but they do happen relatively frequently, and a lot of them don't necessarily have impact. But in 2004, there was a tsunami in the Indian Ocean, and it hit Thailand, Indonesia, hit all sorts of Southeast Asian countries, and it caused massive destruction. And part of the problem with the tsunami is you just don't know it's coming. And they're working on. They have more warning systems in place, so you kind of get a sense. But there were a lot of people who were kind of lulled into. It was a deadly disaster. The ocean's kind of receding, and that's really kind of the first sign. The water's going out because it's being displaced, and people are walking out. Wow, this is really neat. The ocean's kind of drying up, and then it's going to come ripping back in, and that's what happened with the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. Is that people were kind of they don't happen all the time. It's like in the United States, we have tornadoes, and certain times of year, you're going to have tornadoes, and so you're ready for them. And here they weren't ready for them. But the tsunami came in, and people were running for their lives, and it destroyed pretty much everything in its path. Moved cars, took out buildings, everything. It was horrible. But largely, what's happened is that again, they're putting in early warning systems, and people have rebuilt. These are coastal properties, and they don't happen. Tsunamis don't happen every day. It might be another 1,000 years before another tsunami hits that area. And so people are like, okay, we're going to rebuild. This was a resort area. People are going to come back. Sorry about that people lost their lives, but you know what? It's life as usual. And so that's one destructive force with respect to water, is tsunamis. The other destructive force is erosion. And erosion is just kind of the slow, gradual pulling away of the soil or the rock by water. And erosion certainly could happen with wind, but we generally think of it with respect to water. And over time, just slowly the water just either dissolves the rock, like with limestone and stuff like that. I'm not a geologist. My dad had a degree in geology. He talked about it a lot. But at any rate, limestone will sort of dissolve, but a lot of rock, it's just kind of just being wore down over time. and like sandstone, even harder rock like granite. I mean, just over time, just water, continually going over it, the sediments in the water, little bits of sand and gravel just going through and slowly taking microscopic nicks out of the rock. And in time, you end up with huge gorges. I mean, you look at the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is a testament to the power of water and what water can do over hundreds of thousands of, or maybe millions of years. This is the water just going down the Colorado River and just slowly taking out little bits of sediment and pulling that sediment out to ultimately to sea. Um, and you see examples of that, really anywhere. You see examples of it in deserts where there once was water. The Mississippi, there's erosion problems. I mean, it's just erosion is an ongoing, constant problem. I grew up near Lake Superior, and there was, we always had to worry about our shoreline. We had a nice house that was on an inlet lake, Portage Lake, and we still had to worry about erosion because the waves would come in, and they weren't tsunami waves, but they were large waves during certain times of year. And if you weren't careful, you know, you would lose your shoreline. And the waves don't put it back; it just kind of takes it away and then takes it to the bottom of the lake. And so erosion is a tremendously destructive force as well. Now, taking this back to networking, I have a lot of people who will come at me and they'll have what I'll call a tsunami approach to networking. And again, when we think of the tsunami that hit Southeast Asia in 2004, as I indicated, 20 years later, it's pretty much rebuilt. I mean, people lost their lives and that will never be replaced. But as time goes on, people, rebuild and trees regrow. Uh, you don't know that it happened. Um, and life moves on. And that's what I mean by tsunami networking is people want to come in and, hey, let's partner up. Let's see what we can do. I get these messages every day. Hey, let's have a call and let's see how we can partner up. And when I first started getting those messages, my thought was, oh yeah, 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 let's partner up and let's take on the world. This is perfect. I'm excited. Somebody wants to partner up with me. But as time goes on, I start to realize that this tsunami sort of networking, it doesn't last. The effects of it don't last like a tsunami in the ocean. Things rebuild, and people rebuild whatever it is. Whereas erosion type networking, and again, the metaphor is comparing it to what we see with respect to erosion on land. Um, it's slower, it's more methodical, and the impact is much more lasting, if you will. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon. Nobody's talking about filling in the Grand Canyon. It's at a point now where it's like, you know what? Let's just put a fence around and call it a national park, and this is awesome. Um, but it took place over time, and that's how I think networking works best. The relationships I have that are the most fruitful are the ones where it's not, hey, let's get together and let's see how we can, take on the world. It's more, hey, let's get acquainted. Let's learn about each other. Um, I want to know about you. I want to know about your family. I want to know about, all sorts of, stuff with respect to you. And, hey, when's your birthday? And, how are your kids doing? And it's an ongoing sort of, it's an ongoing sort of connection. And any one day you're not going to be able to look at what that relationship has done to you, done to your life. It might be a little bit of information. Hey, here's a little bit of information. Here's how you could be doing this. Here's where how you could, a better way to store your passwords. And it's just little dribs and drabs of things, of these erosion type networking partners that they're just slowly sort of adding things to you. And someday it just might be encouragement, just that encouragement, like, you know what, I know you had a bad day. I know you lost a client. I know this didn't work out. And we all have these days, but just want to let you know that I have those bad days too, and you're going to be fine, and I'm here for you. And, um, you know, those things have, they don't have that immediate sort of tsunami impact. They're like, wow, look at this. That's quickly there and then quickly gone. It's more of a, it's more of a just slow over time, knowing those people are there, kind of building into your life. And I find that that's a better way to go about networking. And to be honest, I have been guilty of tsunami networking. I'll meet somebody and I'll, introduce them to 7, 8 people, and that's it. Don't talk to that person ever again. Um, so I'm not perfect, but I always kind of come away from those encounters with, well, to be honest, I tend to forget about them after a while. I mean, that's the notion of tsunami. I mean, there are people who, oh, there was a tsunami here? I can't tell. Oh, you had an encounter with this person, you introduced them to a lot of people, or, you had this call. I don't remember. And I find that as time has gone on, certainly through the lockdown with the pandemic, I met a lot of people, and there were a lot of tsunami type calls. You're really well connected, Frank. We should talk. I think we would be great partners. And I just find that they end up going nowhere. And then there are other people, because I say are, present tense, because they're kind of still in my life and still offering support here or there. They could reach out to me at any point in time. I can reach out to them, and it's never anything we want the tsunami impact. Don't get me wrong. Everybody does. I would like to pick up the phone or open my email here and just, hey, here's somebody, they're going to change your world. Chances are that doesn't happen, though. It's more of kind of a gradual sort of a thing. And I think that's where, that's where people become 20-year overnight successes. One day you just wake up and they're really successful. And it just didn't, it wasn't a tsunami, a wave. It wasn't like a lottery ticket that just happened. It was just slowly over time. And when the first couple of years, they weren't making a lot of money, and there really wasn't a whole lot going on. But by year 5, it's just, it's starting to build. And year 10, they've got a staff. And year 15, and, they got VPs working for them, or whatever it might be. That's just slowly sort of erosion, sort of networking kind of taking hold. And it's nothing huge at any point in time. And that's where a lot of, that's where 99.9% of business success, networking success comes from, is this erosion. So I guess it's the opposite metaphor. It's just slowly building. It's nothing that's just this catastrophic or this amazing sort of this one connection is just going to change it for you. It just takes place over time. Much of today's podcast is really about kind of getting into that, what I'll call the erosion mindset, slow and steady. And and stop looking for the tsunami. Stop trying to create the tsunami. Just look for the things that make a little bit of difference day in and day out. And those are the things that really have the lasting impact. And it's the lasting impact that you need to become very successful.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today, and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.